It's alarming, really, that a few seemingly everyday habits could be what is standing in the way of you looking in the mirror and finally liking the look of you and no longer shoving your belly, thighs, and arms uncomfortably into your clothes. It took me gaining and losing 80 pounds to recognize that habits, a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up, could make or break the look and feel of our waistline. Are you ready to cease fire and dive into some habits that are expanding your waistline and increasing belly fat? Unhealthy habit number 1, the Tasmanian Devil. I think I might have swallowed a race car because I move through life at lightning pace, rarely putting my foot on the brakes. I don't recommend you follow my lead in this regard. Do what I should have done earlier and more often. Pump your brakes every so often. Unfortunately, moving at fast pace showed up and contributed to some not so supportive eating habits in my life. One in particular is eating too quickly. Eating too quickly can place us on the highway destination overeating with the roadblock of digestive upset. Did you know that when you engage in fast eating behavior, we swallow too much air? Hello, gas and bloating, the discomfort twins. I remember being at an all-you-can-eat buffet, eating at my usual fast pace, running my mouth about something, who knows what. When the room started to move slowly, I became hot. I had lost the ability to breathe. I had talked myself to where I was choking and I hadn't realized it. That day, my goal was to stay alive. On any other day, my goal is to stay within a healthy weight range for my age, height, and activity level. Something that fast eating doesn't do such a good job of encouraging. It's the need to unbuckle my pants or pull them down beneath my belly. That's a clue to me that I've probably eaten too fast because I've lost awareness of what my body needs. See how this seemingly small action could be undermining your goal. So what do? Slowing down when we eat, that's a no-brainer. Well, it wasn't for me at first. I had to develop some tricks to actually help me learn how to eat at a slower pace. First, I absolutely must drink 2 to 4 ounces of warm water or herbal tea before eating, 20 to 30 minutes before eating. Drinking warm water or tea before meals hydrates our intestines in preparation for incoming food. Personally, drinking water or tea before my meal calms my overly stimulated nervous system from all of the environmental outputs, and it attunes me to being and eating in the moment. Secondly, I practice eating at a slower pace by putting my utensils or food, if it's handheld food, down between each bite. Thirdly, I have a bit of a competitive edge, so I challenge myself to chew my food until it is of applesauce consistency and not pick up my food or any utensils until the food in my mouth has reached its accomplished goal of applesauce consistency. I guess our parents were right after all, that eating too fast is bad for us. So notice yourself not doing it. Unhealthy habit number 2, don't eat that. Food should not be demonized. There are no good or bad foods. What is wrecking our waistlines is eating foods that are low in nutritional value, non-satiating, and inflammatory. To our detriment, processed foods are comprised of all of these. On this side of 50, I have noticed that the fastest way for me to lean out my belly just a bit, for those special occasions, to stop an IBS flare-up or increase my mental and physical energy, is to put some distance between myself and processed foods. To end this waistline wrecking horror, it would be important for you and I to evaluate not just the quantity of food intake, but the quality of the food we allow ourselves to eat. Processed foods are often high in sugar, unhealthy fats, and salt, the trifecta to a breeding ground for an inflammatory storm. Wouldn't you say? For the love of your health and waistline, err on the side of eating way more foods in their whole, natural, unprocessed form. I'm talking about food and meal components with the simplest of ingredients: fish, sweet potatoes, cucumbers, carrots, and the like. Deep fried Oreos, cheese stuffed salmon, maybe a little bit less of that. Next, evaluate how the food is prepared. That matters. The preparation of food could add or subtract from the caloric load. Did you know that? Opt for more baked, slow cooked, air fried, lightly sauteed, non-battered foods. As a note, as beneficial as those whole unprocessed foods are, we cannot continually overeat those beyond what our bodies requires without the consequences of an expanding waistline. Just know that, okay? Unhealthy habit number 3, insomnia. guess what? Just because we can doesn't mean we should play loosey-goosey with our sleep. When it comes to the ability to sleep, only 4 to 6 hours if we're lucky, proceed throughout the day, cooking, cleaning, running a business, parenting our children, connecting with friends, volunteering, keeping the flame lit in our romantic lives, exercise, and more and more and more. Ladies, we get first, second, and third place trophy, hands down. However, that is not the award we should be striving for, is it? If you are plagued with fatigue and losing weight feels like an uphill battle, check your sleep status. I played fast and loose with my sleep for so long, wearing it as a badge of honor until my body literally shut down and the pounds just seemed to roll on swiftly. There is so much about sleep and how to get good sleep, the kind that has you jumping out of bed like the first day of a vacation, that I could talk about for hours. Because you think that menopause is the criminal behind your lack of sleep. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. What I do know is that as a postmenopausal woman, my sleep has never been better. No night sweats, restless legs, or inability to get or stay asleep. I'm not having all kinds of conversations in my mind keeping me awake. I am sleep. You know, perhaps I could talk about that next time if you want. Comment sleep below. In the meanwhile, you can put a stop to the insomniac cycle by having a regular scheduled bedtime, at least 5 out of 7 days, where you find yourself in bed at the same time, give or take 5 to 10 minutes. That's not too much to ask. Aim to have your sleep window be between 10 and 11 p.m. That too is not too much to ask. I know all too well how much our minds want to interact with us right at the point of sleep. So before lying down, try to calm your nervous system, strip away some of that frustration and stress by doing box breathing. Box breathing is where you have your breath follow the formation of a box. You inhale for a count of 4, hold that inhale for a count of 4, slowly exhale for a count of 4, and then breathe regularly for a count of 4. Repeat that until you start to feel calm and relaxed. Or to help you not attempt to do anything other than sleep after calming down, try left nostril breathing, where you lie on your right side, place your right thumb against your right nostril, and slowly inhale and exhale for a few rounds for like 3 to 5 minutes. Ooh, the circulation rush, the wave of calm that this breathing practice has in its ability to help us close the book of all that nighttime mental chatter, don't miss it. We do so much throughout the day, probably holding our breath a lot. Let nighttime be the time at least that you give attention to your breathing and give oxygen to all the parts of your body. Unhealthy habit number 4, stimulation overload. Are you an emotional eater? I used to be, until I spotted a pattern that was increasing the number of times I ate from a negative emotional place. Did you know that something we do every day acts as a fertilizer for behaviors that increases our stress and anxiety response, permitting our delicate senses to be constantly bombarded with images, with screens from our phones, computers, tablets, laptops, and even the gas station pump area. Ongoing chatter and loud noises, be it from music, notifications, or exposure to bright lights at times when we should be nurturing our melatonin production, silently puts our brains on alert and into stress mode, looking for a way out. And here is where emotional eating enters. Emotional eating can stem from several places. One in particular is as a means of trying to manage and cope with stressful, anxiety-triggering experiences. But if eating as a coping mechanism is creating new worse problems such as an expanding waistline, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, then maybe, just maybe, it's time that we look into learning how to cope with stressful people and situations different. That is a big, scary thing to ask of you, I know. But as you are gearing up to stretch your I can do it muscles, for now, understand that we can protect our senses by being intentional to take pre-scheduled breaks for ourselves. You heard me say breaks. That means more than one. Taking breaks from sensory overload several times throughout the day, where you rest your eyes from screen stimulation, your ears from the sounds other than natural nature sounds, birds chirping, wind winding, and if you're near a body of water, the sound of its travels up or downstream. Notice how your breathing pace shifts and slows a bit, and how your shoulders relax. And if you're like me, a bona fide teeth grinder, observe how the pressure of that tension softens. We can agree that this is the type of break our brain, nervous system, and fat-sparing cells deserve. Unhealthy habit 5, pretending. Can we circle back to another cause of emotional eating? How many times this week have you dropped the famous, I'm fine, it's nothing, when in fact you are not fine and it was something? What about smiling at uncomfortable comments as though in agreement and not expressing your true insights? Ignoring our emotional health, pretending all is well when it isn't, only to eat until those feelings pass or we become too numb to them is not ideal. I don't recommend it. Not taking the time to put forth the effort to recognize our emotional needs, to cultivate joy and fulfillment is wrecking our health and waistline, one suppressed feeling at a time. I have one word for how to navigate to move away from pretending and not, in essence, living authentically. Here it is: boundaries.